There's a quote from the Buddha which goes like this: "The foot feels the foot when it feels the ground." Now, at first, that seems to be a statement which reinforces materialism, because it's like saying the foot is unconscious at first and then it feels itself when it simultaneously feels the ground. But if you examine that quote closely, the foot feels the foot when it feels the ground. In order to feel itself, to become aware of itself, to have its focus on itself, it needs to feel the ground first. And in order to feel the ground first, it needs to have the ability to become aware of everything else. And how does it get that ability in the first place? How does it become aware of everything else in the first place? And therein lies the mystery. Now, there are many other claims made in the teachings of the Buddha, such as all you have is mind, and that's epistemologically consistent with your experience. If you pay attention to your experience right now, everything, absolutely everything, is happening in your mind. All you have is your mind, nothing else. And such observation is consistent with, congruous with idealism. That's all you have. I'd also like to say something about lucid dreaming. A lot of people seem to think that in order to become lucid in a dream, because in reality it's not the dream itself that becomes lucid, it is you. You change. The way you look at things and how you feel about them and how you construe the reality around you can change, can fluctuate. And the dream itself, even though it changes form depending on how you interact with it and depending on your thinking, never changes its nature. So the dream world remains the same, but you change. And you're the one who becomes lucid. In order for us to employ the term lucid dreaming, in order for a dream to be lucid, the dreamer has to be lucid. So the lucidity is absolutely focused on the dreamer. So you become lucid, and for that to happen, awareness alone isn't enough. A lot of people seem to think that just by being aware, the more awareness you have in a dream, then the more likely it is that you will be lucid, you will become lucid. That's false, because you could absolutely be super aware of the surroundings. You could be in a very vivid dream and observe that everything looks solidly real. The dream world could absolutely emulate the waking world to a T, and you can be super aware of it and yet think that you are awake. You could mistake the dream world for the waking world. You could be aware of something and yet have the wrong idea about it. You could absolutely be mistaken about what you're experiencing. So awareness, to be aware of things in the dream, can help you to the extent that you are able to recognize dream cues, dream signs. You know, it helps the detective to be aware of details. Absolutely helps, but that alone isn't enough to become aware of what's really going on. You know, in order for you to reach lucidity, to really become aware of, to see through the illusion and become aware of the nature of the reality that surrounds you, you need something else. What's required for lucidity is not just awareness. Awareness by itself isn't enough. But this thing that I'm about to say can actually be enough for lucidity without even you having much awareness about your surroundings. If you just entertain the notion that you might be dreaming, even though you're not really very aware of what's around you, it could prompt you to really start paying attention to your surroundings. It could prompt you to increase your awareness and lead to lucidity. So the primary thing to consider in order to start taking the first steps towards lucidity is critical thinking. Right? If you have critical thinking, then you can become lucid in a dream. Then you can see through the illusion. If you, you're in a vivid dream, the dream world emulates the waking world. It's very clear, it's very vivid, objects look very detailed, and if you're not thinking critically, you might say to yourself, well, everything looks as it should. Things look solidly real, therefore I can't possibly be dreaming. Well, that's the wrong approach to take, because you should always remember that the dream world can emulate the real world to a T. In fact, when you're having non-lucid dreams, when you're not lucid, you mistake the dream world for reality. Ordinary dreams already fool you, and you don't have much awareness in them. So, and the same goes for vivid dreaming, when you're super aware of your environment, but you're just not entertaining other possibilities, which is why it's useful to do reality checks when you're awake. When you're actually awake during the day, throughout the day, perform reality checks and pretend that you are dreaming, that you might actually be dreaming when you do them. And when you do a reality check, don't just do it lackadaisically. Don't just do it for the sake of doing it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to perform a reality check, but I know I'm already awake. No, don't do it like that. Actually perform the test. Test your reality, but always consider the possibility that you might be dreaming. Challenge that certainty that you feel in yourself. Challenge that, because you can never really truly be sure of anything but the fact that you're conscious, as I've said before. So when you're awake, perform reality checks during the day with conviction. Really test it. Test it several times and ask yourself, are you dreaming? Observe your surroundings. Do tests using text, for example. Look at a piece of text, look away and look back. Has it changed? Stuff like that. Such tests tend to be quite reliable. And then you will continue that kind of behavior into your sleep, and then you will increase the chances of performing the same tests when you're actually dreaming. And that reminds you to think. Reality tests remind you to think critically in all situations. So when you are actually dreaming, you will ask yourself, even if you're surrounded by a vivid environment, and objects look solidly real and colorful and vibrant, and the dream reality is in your face, you will question it. You will say, well, it's not enough to assume that I can't possibly be dreaming just because things look realistic, because I know that the dreaming mind can emulate waking experience. So I'm really going to test it, knowing how fluid the dream world can be. I'm really going to test this. I'm not just going to assume that I can't possibly be dreaming because everything looks realistic. So with critical thinking, you will start testing your reality, and voila, you will notice anomalies and you'll become lucid. And when you become lucid, then you'll have your confirmation. You'll be lucid dreaming. Now, there is the question of, what do you experience when you're having a lucid dream? Is it all in your mind, or is it something external, in the sense that not everything that's happening in the dream world is your doing? Are you receiving information from another source apart from yourself, your own mind? That I don't know. I think we should all be open to possibilities in the realm of psi phenomena. I think we should explore the possibility that dream telepathy might be real, or dream precognition. I mean, I've had some experiences with, where I have had out of body experiences, and I've visited people, and then I've returned to my body, and I've called those people and I told them my experience, and sometimes, and they would make associations, and they would be shocked at what I was telling them over the phone, and then they would sometimes even finish the sentence I started whilst describing my experience. Like, sometimes they would say things to me about my experience before I could even tell them, which a lot of people might put it down to coincidence. Some people might entertain the possibility that it might be something more than that. I don't know. I mean, billions of people have billions of dreams all over the world every night, and it's possible that sometimes striking coincidences happen, like winning the lottery, and there's nothing afoot going on in terms of telepathy and precognition. I've also had dreams where what happened in them gave me the gist. The details didn't exactly match, but such dreams gave me the gist of what would end up happening, say about 2 weeks later. So it does make you think. It makes you wonder about the nature of reality indeed. And it brings to mind the research of people like Michael Persinger, the inventor of the God helmet, who conducted experiments with remote viewers like Ingo Swann, and there were some correlations which went beyond what you would expect if it was just coincidence, you know. And Michael Persinger indeed had an interesting hypothesis. So his hypothesis was that within the geomagnetic field, it's possible for minds to become entangled. So he believed in the quantum entanglement of minds, and indeed he performed some experiments with subjects in different rooms using magnetic fields, and he claimed that he succeeded in recording the quantum entanglement of minds. And he reckons that sometimes the geomagnetic field allows for such entanglement to happen, and then it, you know, it permits shared dreaming and stuff like that. Now, I don't know what's possible. I think we should be open to such possibilities. I think a true skeptic doesn't just dismiss such ideas. I think you should always be open to other possibilities, because if you're just going to be closed-minded, it's almost like you're telling yourself and others that you already have sussed out how reality works, and I don't think anyone has. Particularly the materialist types, they think, oh yeah, it's all cause and effect, and I've got my idea of how reality works, and what you're implying here could never happen, couldn't possibly happen, ever. And I think that's the wrong approach to take, because, you know, we should always remember that even the greatest minds that have ever lived have made gross mistakes. For example, Einstein didn't like quantum entanglement. He didn't like the idea that reality could be spooky at a distance. So much so that he posited hidden variables which nobody had ever described prior to such hidden variables being proved wrong. He thought that information couldn't travel faster than light, that he thought that local realism could be preserved by such hidden variables, and as it turned out, reality is weirder than what he actually thought. Local realism is false, as it was proved last year, or I should say the year before, really, 2022, because we're now in 2024. But yeah, local realism is false. The experiments that were conducted by John Clauser and co. absolutely violated Bell's inequalities, so we know for a fact that there are no hidden variables. The results from the quantum entangled experiments using multiple paired particles were above Bell's limit. So, science is constantly revising itself, and oftentimes reality contradicts our intuitions. and right now I'm reading a very interesting book by Bernardo Kastrup, and which is called Materialism Is Baloney. And I think everyone should read it, because in the West it seems that the doctrine of materialism has taken a hold in everyone's minds. Even people who, surprisingly, even it has infected even the minds of people who are religious, it's so deeply entrained in our minds. Even I'm guilty of thinking in materialist terms sometimes. It's so deeply ingrained in the psyche of Western people, especially, that it influences our behavior, how we react to things, how we, and it's behind consumerism. It's, but then if we are to be epistemologically honest with ourselves, we will notice that we shouldn't be fooled by the appearances in our mind, and mind is all we have. All we have is our minds, and we're on an interesting journey here. Reality couldn't be weirder, and perhaps there are worlds out there that we know nothing about, which are even weirder than the weirdness that surrounds us. And as human beings, we can't possibly fathom